The first warning came as static. Commander Aisha Rourke sat in the war room aboard the TDS Retribution, reviewing a deep space anomaly near Saturn when the encrypted channel from Europa went dead. No alerts. No scramble orders. Just silence. Then came the scream. A second later, it cut off, and her brother's face, live feed from Europa's outer deck, flickered on screen. He didn't look afraid. He looked angry. They're here. No warning. They're not landing, they're burning us. The screen went white. The room held its breath. The tactical wall lit up in red, Europa offline. All biosignals lost. Get me orbital scans. Aisha barked, her voice slicing through the paralysis. Officers jumped into motion, hands dancing over holograms. A planetary scale pulse, Xarnathi plasma bombardment, had erased every structure within seconds. Terraforming domes shattered. Ice oceans boiled. Communications blacked out. Europa was gone. Aisha stood frozen, fists clenched so tight her knuckles cracked. Her brother, Lieutenant Rourke, had been overseeing the station's defense grid. 27,000 civilians. No warning. No declaration. She turned to Admiral Vale, eyes ice cold. They've started it. 12 hours later, in Earth's orbit, Aisha stood before the Terran High Command. The chamber was stone-faced. Earth's leaders, dressed in silks and synthetics, sat in half-circle projection chairs while behind them played the looped footage of Europa's last transmission. Aisha didn't flinch. They called it a demonstration strike, she said. They wanted to remind us who's in charge of this galaxy. A hologram flickered behind her, showing the triangular warships of the Xarnathi fleet holding position near the Kuiper colonies. And how do you propose we respond, Commander? Asked Chancellor Noran, voice smooth but insincere. With retaliation. He raised a brow. You're talking about total war. I'm talking about the only language the Xarnathi understand. Murmurs broke out. She didn't wait for approval. They burned our colony alive. My brother is ash. Do you really think appeasement buys anything but more time to dig our graves deeper? Another voice, Senator Malvik, always the pacifist. They have the largest armada in known space. We retaliate, and Earth could be next. They're coming either way. Aisha leaned forward. You don't bring plasma warships to negotiate. She walked out before they voted. She already knew the answer. The Retribution's hangar stank of scorched metal and refueling plasma. Aisha stood before a group of Terran naval cadets, green, barely 20, still smelling of academy starch, but armed and furious. Behind them, mechs marched, walkers tested their recoil, and engineers screamed for more coolant packs. You've trained for this, she said. But training's theory. Out there, she pointed toward the black beyond the steel shutters, the enemy doesn't play fair. The Xarnathi don't believe in mercy. You will not get a second chance. She looked into their eyes. One flinched. Most didn't. You fight for every civilian they'll never reach. Every family on Earth who doesn't know what just happened. Every voice silenced on Europa. A long pause. If you're not ready, leave now. There's no shame in surviving. But there is shame in standing by. No one moved. She turned and marched back to the command deck. By midnight, the Terran fleet had mobilized. Not many ships. Most were repurposed mining rigs and long-range haulers with crude weapons welded to their hulls. Humanity wasn't built for war, but it had adapted. Improvised brutality. That was humanity's secret weapon. Status, she asked, stepping onto the bridge. Fleet Echo 9 ready, Commander. Jump drives primed for Saturn intercept. We've tracked 3 Xarnathi scouts patrolling the outer debris belt. Aisha nodded. Time for a message. She leaned over the command interface, overlaying a route through the densest asteroid field. Any Xarnathi ship would assume humans too clumsy to navigate it. They weren't wrong, most humans were. But Aisha had handpicked her pilots. Signal Echo 9. Begin burn. The battle over Saturn was chaos wrapped in silence. Space didn't scream. But inside the retribution, the vibrations told the story well enough. The first Xarnathi scout was lured into the asteroid belt, then atomized by a Terran drone with a fusion core set to overload. The second was shredded by improvised shrapnel mines. The third nearly got away, until a hauler slammed into its engines, sacrificing itself for the kill. Aisha watched it all from the ops screen, jaw tight. "That's 3 confirmed," her lieutenant said. She nodded. "Transmit the wreckage footage to High Command. Let them see what resistance looks like." A message pinged her private line. Encrypted. From her brother's backup terminal. It was a voice file. Static crackled, then, "Sis, if you get this, I guess I'm dust now. But don't let it end here. Don't let Earth beg. Make them bleed for every inch." The recording ended. Aisha didn't cry. She closed the file, stood tall, and issued a single command. "Prep the fleet. We're taking the war to them." Across the void, in the deep reaches of the Kuiper line, a Xarnathi war priest listened to intercepted human transmissions. He tilted his head. "They sacrifice cargo ships, pilot haulers into our destroyers, primitive minds. But dangerous." Archwarlord Vrexentkor stepped forward. "Dangerous only when ignored. We'll show them what true power looks like." He tapped a talon against the glowing star map, Earth's orbit flickering at the edge. "Begin Phase 2. Back on the Retribution, Aisha stood alone at the viewport. Jupiter's massive storm churned below like an ancient red eye. Her reflection was ghost pale against the stars. "They came for our minerals," she said under her breath. "But they forgot, we come from fire." Behind her, alarms blared. "Warp signatures inbound." She didn't flinch. Battle stations. Titan's sky was always dark. Saturn's rings cast a cold silver sheen on the colony below, broken only by the buzz of spotlights and war drums of machinery. Terran Fleet West regrouped here, what was left of it, scarred ships docked shoulder to shoulder like wounded wolves, metal howling as welders patched holes for the next fight. Commander Aisha Rourke walked through the hangar, flanked by 2 escorts. Mechanics saluted as she passed, their faces smeared with engine grease and grief. A child ran past, barely 10, clutching a rusted helmet 3 sizes too big. Civilians had flooded Titan after Europa's fall, and the colony was stretched thin. But no one complained. Everyone had lost someone. In a converted cargo bay at the far end of the complex, the warborn stood waiting. They weren't dressed like regular soldiers. No uniforms. No rank pins. Just black reinforced bodysuits and eyes that didn't blink enough. They were taller than average, some hairless, all built like blunt instruments. Biogenetic experiments, bred from survivors of Earth's deadliest environments, radiation zones, tundras, jungles, war zones. Not created for diplomacy. Created to end wars. Aisha stepped inside. The air changed, colder, heavier. 13 pairs of eyes locked onto her. She held their gaze. "You've been activated." One of them, a woman named Sarah, tall, olive-skinned, scar running down her jaw, stepped forward. "About time. You've been losing without us." "We didn't lose," Aisha said. "We're bleeding them slowly. You're here to open the artery." Sarah smiled faintly. "Then point us at the neck." An hour later, Aisha convened her strike council in Titan Command's war room. Maps of the outer rim pulsed in red and orange, showing troop movements, supply lines, and the fleet's current strength, barely 41% of pre-conflict readiness. "Xarnathi scout ships are probing Saturn's orbit. Testing our defenses," her lieutenant reported. "They know we're rebuilding." "Let them," Aisha said. "It's time they think we're cornered." General Harkin leaned over the table. "You want them to strike?" "I want them to walk into the trap we're setting." She tapped a section of the asteroid belt, codenamed Grid K7. A chaotic web of floating rock and frozen debris. The Xarnathi avoided it. Human ships, though crude, could weave through it with enough skill and risk tolerance. We rig it with proximity mines, detonate the belt when their cruisers pass through. Use the wreckage to separate their formation. Then we send in the warborn drop team to hit their command vessel. You want to fight them inside their own ship? Harkin asked. Aisha nodded. Guerrilla tactics. They're not trained for close quarters. We are. High risk, he said. We've got no low-risk options left. Later that evening, Aisha stood alone on the observation deck. Titan's icy plains stretched below, ghost-pale under artificial lights. Her thoughts wandered to Earth, her mother's voice, her brother's old guitar, the warmth of ocean wind. None of it felt real anymore. Sarah joined her silently, her presence like a shadow that had decided to speak. You don't look like a commander up here, Sarah said. Aisha didn't turn. What do I look like? Someone pretending not to grieve. Silence. Aisha finally asked, do you feel anything when you kill? Sarah tilted her head. Yes. But not the same way you do. We feel function. We feel completion. Aisha faced her. And when it's over? Sarah met her gaze. We wait for the next war. Or we get recycled. The truth hit like cold metal. The warborn weren't soldiers. They were weapons, programmed with just enough humanity to take orders, not enough to ask why. The next morning, Earth's Peace Council sent a direct message, do not escalate. Seek ceasefire. Aisha didn't respond. Instead, she uploaded footage from the warborn's first raid, a silent infiltration of a Xarnathi forward station orbiting Dion. It lasted 3 minutes. No human casualties. 42 enemy dead. Explosives planted. The station disintegrated into stardust minutes later. She tagged the message. We do not negotiate after genocide. Meanwhile, deep in Xarnathi space, Arch-Warlord Vrexen reviewed the footage. Human boarding tactics. Primitive. Reckless. Effective. He tapped a claw against the display. They refuse to follow predictable patterns. Even their elite don't adhere to logic. A subordinate, a younger strategist, spoke up. Perhaps we should adapt. Vrexen turned. Adapt? To monkeys in metal suits? They fight like nothing we've encountered. Because they have nothing to lose, Vrexen snapped. They fight like fire spreading through bone. The strategist bowed, retreating. Vrexen's eyes narrowed. This isn't a war. It's a purge. And we're behind. On Titan, the countdown had begun. 15 hours until Operation Gorgon's Jaw, the asteroid ambush, was activated. Warborn loaded into stealth shuttles. The fleet's remaining drones buzzed with new payloads. Aisha addressed the crew before departure. Some of you think this war started last week. It didn't. It started the moment we stopped being afraid of tyrants. She paused. They came for resources. They'll leave, if at all, with scars they'll never forget. You're not just fighting for Earth. You're fighting for the idea that we decide our worth. No cheers. Just nods. Soldiers don't need speeches. They need leaders who believe it themselves. As the fleet jumped toward Grid K7, Aisha whispered to herself. Let's make them remember who we are. The silence before detonation felt unnatural. Commander Aisha Rourke stood on the TDS Retribution's bridge, eyes locked on the asteroid field ahead. Grid K7 glowed faintly with electromagnetic static, every floating rock now a potential death sentence wired with proximity mines and directional charges. The Xarnathi fleet approached, unaware. Confident. They've entered the kill zone, her lieutenant reported. Cruisers Alpha and Beta in formation. Capital ship dead center. Aisha raised one hand, steady. Trigger Gorgon's Jaw. The mines lit up the void. Explosions cascaded through the belt in timed pulses, each detonation sending shards of rock and hull ripping into the alien formation. The lead cruiser tore apart from the center. Another spun into debris, engines flaming out. Their tight formation shattered. Xarnathi fleet breaking rank, someone shouted. Good, Aisha muttered. Phase 2. Launch the Warborn. In the assault bay, Sarah and her unit waited inside a sealed drop shuttle. No windows. Just vibration. The kind that climbed into your teeth. She checked her pulse once. Steady. The others were quiet. Focused. Objective, disable command core. Secondary, kill Vrexen if possible, said the pilot over comms. Copy, Sarah replied. Doors open on breach. No second pass. The shuttle jerked. Then stillness. Then fire. The outer hull sliced through what remained of the enemy's escort and slammed into the side of the Xarnathi flagship. A perfect hit. Explosives punched through alien armor. The hatch burst outward. The Warborn charged in. Inside the Xarnathi warship, gravity bent sideways, lights stuttered, and the smell of ozone and blood filled the air. Sarah moved first, cutting through a Xarnathi officer with her forearm blade. Others followed, fluid and fast. No shouting. No noise. A swarm of biomechanical guards retaliated, six-legged monstrosities with plasma lances, but the Warborn danced between arcs of energy, striking vital nodes and vanishing into shadow. A maze of corridors followed. The deeper they moved, the more resistance they met. Still, they advanced. Sarah reached the command bridge in 12 minutes. On the Retribution, Aisha monitored the telemetry. Warborn inside enemy flagship. No response from their side. A massive energy surge lit the screen. Commander, Xarnathi backup fleet just dropped from hyperspace. Aisha spun toward the tactical array. 8 new signatures. Reinforcements. They're early, she muttered. They weren't supposed to arrive for another 6 hours. She made a call. All Terran ships, full thrust to defensive positions. Mining vessels form wedge formation. Activate kinetic shielding. Admiral Harkin's voice crackled through. We're outnumbered. Aisha narrowed her eyes. Then we aim smarter. In orbit, improvised Earth ships formed a claw formation, shielding the Warborn insertion point. Haulers and freighters weren't built for combat, but they were built to haul millions of tons of metal. They became weapons. One by one, they rammed enemy destroyers, tearing through shields with sheer inertia. Boarding pods launched from cargo holds. Earth's Marines fought tooth and nail inside fracture corridors, their suits patched with duct tape and hope. This wasn't a battle of equals. It was desperation, weaponized. Sarah reached the central chamber. Vrexen stood waiting, towering, cloaked in obsidian armor, plasma halberd humming. You send beasts to my throne, he growled. Sarah stepped forward. We send answers. He struck first. She ducked, rolled, drove a blade into his side. Sparks, not blood. The armor held. He backhanded her, sending her crashing into a column. Another Warborn lunged, cut down in one stroke. Vrexen roared. This is your fury? This is your wrath? Sarah stood slowly. No, she said. This is your end. She activated her final charge, embedded in her suit's spine. A directed EMP exploded outward. Systems shorted. Lights flickered. Vrexen staggered. The others attacked as one. Aboard the Retribution, sensors spiked. Enemy command ship, losing energy coherence. Aisha leaned in. Get me visual. The Xarnathi flagship drifted, wounded. Then, it ignited from the inside. A fireball bloomed from its core, followed by a shockwave that rattled every hull in orbit. The bridge broke into cheers. Aisha didn't smile. Any signs of the Warborn? She asked. Silence. Then, minimal life signatures. One survivor. Who? The screen showed a single suit, drifting, venting oxygen, barely holding together. Sarah. Hours passed. The remaining Xarnathi ships pulled back, fractured and leaderless. Terran ships, damaged and bleeding, held formation. They didn't chase. They didn't need to. The message was clear. Earth would not be taken. Aisha stood before the crew, bruised and hollow-eyed. We were supposed to die today. According to the Empire, we should have begged. She scanned the room. Instead, we stood. We improvised. We endured. Her voice cracked, just once. Because we are not prey. We are the wrath of Terra. Sarah, recovered but permanently scarred, sat alone in the med bay days later. Her breathing was uneven. But her hands were steady. Aisha visited. You came back, she said quietly. Sarah looked out the window toward Saturn's rings. I wasn't done. A long pause. Aisha spoke again. You're not a weapon to me. Sarah's voice was low. I don't know what I am anymore. Aisha sat beside her. Human. That's enough. Outside, Earth's sun rose over Titan. For the first time in weeks, it felt warm.